So I've seen these discussions about the complete decoupling from China, and hell, I've been a part of those discussions, talking about how we need to completely divorce ourselves from anything China because of their human rights violations, their intellectual property theft, and their belligerence to us and our allies. But I've also come to realize that an isolated China makes them no less dangerous. It really doesn't serve that much of a purpose outside of just making ourselves feel good for decoupling from them, which has its merits. And all you have to do is look at countries like North Korea, who have become completely isolated but are also more dangerous, or Iran, who seems to become more dangerous the more it becomes isolated. I mean, North Korea was isolated and still detonated nuclear weapons. So when it comes to China, we need to be smarter, more strategic, and more deliberate. A full decoupling isn't the answer. It's messy, it's chaotic, and frankly, because of the dangers that come with it, because it could potentially harm the US as well as China, it could backfire. So instead, we should aim for a one-way decoupling. Let's make China more dependent on us while we quietly reduce how much we rely on them. This serves to kind of bolster their economy in a way that makes them feel good about still being involved in the global trade systems and global payment systems and being a part of the US trade infrastructure as they are currently, while somewhat alleviating their concerns about completely losing that access. So first, we need to talk about reducing our vulnerabilities. Right now, China has leverage over us in key areas like non-technical manufacturing, rare earth elements, and pharmaceuticals. We need to fix that. Bring easy manufacturing back home, or move it to friendly countries like Mexico, India, or Vietnam. Build up strategic reserves of critical minerals so we're not caught off guard. Leverage places like Brazil, Vietnam, India, Australia, or even our own. In early 2024, American Rare Earths Incorporated announced the discovery of approximately 2.34 billion metric tons of rare earth minerals near Wheatland, Wyoming. Now, this find is potentially the largest known deposit of these critical elements in the world, exponentially surpassing China's 44 million metric tons. Also, let's spread out our supply chains a little better across allies like Japan, South Korea, and Europe, so we never really are overly reliant on a single country, especially not China. Now, diversifying to Japan and South Korea is feasible despite the higher costs. They offer advanced tech, automation, and efficiencies offsetting those expenses. Plus, stronger supply chains and reduced reliance on China bring long-term security and strategic benefits. On the tech side, we hold most of the cards. We dominate in the semiconductor design, advanced software, and emerging tech like AI and quantum computing. So let's keep it that way. Tighten our export controls. Tighten security measures through strategic digital infrastructure funding so China can't just steal or buy their way into our future. And let's work with allies like the Netherlands, the UK, Japan, Taiwan, and South Korea to stay ahead, because whoever controls the tech controls the world. Now, simultaneously, while we are weaning ourselves off of China, we make them rely more on us. For example, China depends on US and Western technology. They need our chips. They need our fabrication manufacturing systems. They need our software. They need our markets. So let's double down on that by making our systems and standards the global standard. We've done it before with operating systems, cloud computing, payment systems, and internet protocols. So let's expand it to things like 6G, advanced batteries, green energy, etc. If China wants to play in those areas, they have to play by our rules. We can also keep China hooked on Western consumer markets. They need us. China relies heavily on the US and EU consumer markets to sustain its export-driven economy. We can use this leverage by allowing access only under strict conditions that serve us, such as enforcing labor laws and environmental standards, as well as demanding transparency. Otherwise, we execute very targeted specific tariffs, not sledgehammer broad tariffs like we've been seeing recently. And let's make sure they stay reliant on key resources that we and our allies control, like advanced materials and energy exports. At the same time, we tighten the screws globally. We work with our allies to counter China's moves, whether it's the Belt and Road debt traps or their attempts to dominate international trade routes. So we offer better deals to countries they're targeting, which really equates to more fair deals that come with access to the juggernaut that is the US economy. This can easily be accomplished by strengthening the relationships with places like India, Asian nations, and Africa, so they see the US as a better partner than China. And don't forget Taiwan, because that is going to be critical. Keep it well supported economically and militarily, so it stays a thorn in Beijing's side. Finally, let's not forget China's weaknesses. Their system isn't as strong as they want the world to believe. Their economy has major cracks. Their debt is sky high. Youth unemployment is atrocious. Real estate is tanked, and their political system creates resentment at home. Even Xi Jinping has said that the young people need to eat pills of bitterness. Amplify these weaknesses. Promote alternatives to their authoritarian model. Highlight their failures, whether it's their environmental destruction, corruption, or social inequality, and create friction where we can with their own people. We can do this through just broad information. They have access to it. We just need it to be more targeted to what they want, not what we think they want. And the fact of the matter is this one-way decoupling has happened before. The US tied Saudi Arabia to us by guaranteeing their security while we shifted to our own energy independence. Now they depend on us for security, and we do not need them whatsoever. So they are an influential tool for us to use in the Middle East. Europe depended on the United States after World War II through the Marshall Plan, and helping them kept their economy and security needs in the US orbit. Post-World War II, Japan became an industrial giant but stayed reliant on US-led energy and tech systems. Even China's own growth after joining the World Trade Organization depended on exporting to the United States, not the other way around. Britain did the same thing with its colonies, using raw materials that flowed to them and then had finished goods flow back. During the Cold War, the Soviets kept client states like Cuba hooked on their aid. And now, Europe's shift away from Russian gas shows how you can flip dependence to your advantage. The strategy is simple, the execution is hard. Control what others need, energy, technology, markets, while cutting your own vulnerabilities. Make them rely on you more than you'll ever rely on them. Here's the key though. It isn't about loud, dramatic moves. It's not about big tariffs, bans, etc. It's a gradual shift, quietly pulling the strings, strengthening ourselves, and tying China tighter into a system they can't control. The goal is apparent. We build a future where China needs us far more than we'll ever need them. And that is how us and our allies win.